Okay, it's live, so you'll start seeing people enter now.
Hey, everybody. I am going to give it a few minutes for people to keep signing on, but this is we're going to start our virtual sake trade show here in a few minutes. Thank you, Jen, for that message. So now I understand. Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is usually, in Portland, we've done a sake trade show every year for the past 14 years. This is the 15th year, and I wasn't going to sit around and not let something happen. So, as we all know, here's been virtual. So we are doing our 15th annual, but first virtual sake trade show. I don't know that anyone else has actually done a virtual trade show like this. We've had virtual events throughout the year, visiting breweries and different things like that. But trade show wise, I don't know we've had anything like this. So I hope you all get a lot out of it. It's going to be fun and interesting. So I do want to introduce Jennifer Keating, who is our executive producer today. Jennifer works for Vine Connections, and she is beyond amazing. That's all I can tell you. She's the executive producer, well, for this show, and she's a marketing and innovations director at Vine Connections. So ahead of time, I'm telling Jennifer, thank you so much for today. Jennifer, if you could put up the screen for me, and I will get started on my presentation. All right, so this is our virtual sake trade show 2021. You'll notice the logo, Republic National Distributing Company. As of January, actually it's been happening the last couple of years, but as of January 11th, Young's Market in the West has now all integrated and become part of RNDC, which I'm very happy about. And so moving forward, you'll see our logo and everything else is going to be RNDC. So let's go to the next slide. Today, we're going to have very creative presentations from a list of suppliers. We're going to have 10 different segments, and they're 10-minute segments. So this is going to be fast and furious. I've really limited everybody to 10 minutes. I figured at a regular sake trade show, you're standing in front of a table. You're not standing there for an hour. You're standing there for a few minutes. You're tasting, you're talking, you're learning. We don't have the tasting part, of course, but the presentations are going to be really fun and limited to 10 minutes. And then we're just going to do a round robin 10-minute thing. So it's going to keep people on their toes, and I'll announce, everybody knows the schedule, but I will announce it as we come along. We're going to introduce a lot of new items today. It's going to be an excellent opportunity to learn. There's going to be presentations about food and sake. And then we have a very special presentation from John Gauntner, one of the world's leading sake experts who's going to really teach some cool stuff today. That'll be later on today. So you do not want to miss any of this. And if people are still getting registered and sign in, they can, as soon as they register that link that you guys have all done, they can still join in on the fun. So next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about selling in 2021. Sake is moving. If you look at IRI data, at least this was through September 2020, and this data here is just sake. It doesn't include plum wine, but it's just sake through IRI data, which, if you're familiar with that, is all retail segment data. It doesn't include Costco, but it includes, a lot of other retail stores. Sake, this just through the September 2020 was up 45.7%, and I know that it continued to increase throughout the rest of the year. I know we had some record months past September. So sake is selling. There's more and more people drinking sake. I know this for a fact because there's a store in Oregon called Wajimaya, and I go there quite often, and I kind of just stand around and watch people, and then I kind of help people and help them select sakes. And I am amazed. It's just constant flow of people coming in and say, I don't know anything about sake, but I'm really interested in it. I really like it. We want to get a bottle and take it home. And that just didn't really happen to the level it's happening today. And I believe the base has been established, and it's just going to continue and continue. There are many, many new sake enthusiasts. A lot of them don't know what they like. They don't know if they like, fruity floral, dry, and they all say, maybe drier. I like jumai because that's the word that they memorized, but they really don't know, that much about sake, but that's okay. They're looking into it and they're trying to learn about it. So all of you who are selling sake, just continue to look at it and continue to be aware of sake opportunities everywhere, because sake is going to continue even after things open up again. I know we have people from across the US on this virtual trade show today, and some markets are open a little bit, some markets are not. I know in the West, we have pretty much everybody in the West is still restaurant to go only, or maybe outdoor dining, possibly. Sometimes in some states, it's not even happening. But my point is, it's going to get better. And as restaurants reopen, the sales of sake is not going to slow down. It's going to continue. People will continue to buy sake retail. They'll continue to purchase sake at the restaurants. And it's just, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful place to be right now in sake. And our friend Marumoto-san says, no sake, no life. All right, for off-premise, if you are in that world, I think it's really important that you keep talking to your RNDC account representative about new sake. Find out what's new, find out what's coming in. Keep your shelves rotated. Keep the selections vibrant. Keep changing things up. Keep an eye on what's moving. This is a beautiful display that Madeline Weber in Teague did up in Washington. But this is just an example of what can be done with displays. But as you can see, there's a variety of different sake there, different price points. It's really important to pay attention to it. Don't just walk by the sake. If you're an RNDC representative, don't just walk by the sake and go to the wine section and take care of that. And oh yeah, sake. Pay attention to sake too, please, because it's moving, it's selling well. And you want to have a good product mix. You want to have different nagoris. You want to have different jumais, different daiginjos, some honjozos. You want to have ginjos. And obviously you want to target price points that are going to work for your customers. The larger selection, the more you sell. As you well know, in a regular wine set, if you had 2 selections of Chardonnay versus 30 selections of Chardonnay, you're going to sell a lot more Chardonnay. It's going to be the same thing. Not that every store needs to have 30 to 40 to 50 selections of sake. Some stores don't need that much, but 1 or 2 only is not going to cut it. You need to have a variety. All right, next slide. For on-premise, Sake to go is a new reality. And I do believe that after things open up again, that sake, or excuse me, food to go and the food, different food, Grubhub and DoorDash and all those companies will continue to increase their business or continue to be vibrant. I do think this is a way of life that people have just gotten used to. So to-go sales are going to continue even after restaurants open. Of course, once restaurants open, people are going to just be really willing to go out to the restaurants again. And we need to support the restaurants to continue to do that. But one note I wanted to point out that I've learned over this past year is the food delivery services, most of them, I think there's only one in this area that actually can do alcohol deliveries. Most of them cannot, and it depends on your state, I'm sure, about what the rules are. But some of the more successful restaurants in the to-go business for selling alcohol as an extra added revenue stream is they would say, if you encourage customers to come pick up the restaurant, pick up their to-go, and if they do, they will get a certain percentage of discount on sake to go. So for instance, it's 25% discount on all sake to go, or 21%, or 15%, or 10, whatever it is, offering some kind of discount, and this is off your normal restaurant price, of course, will work. I've seen it work over and over and over. And obviously that's not going to happen if they just order on Grubhub, and restaurants appreciate that, but restaurants actually do a little bit better when people come in to pick up their food there, because they don't have to pay the Grubhub system the extra money, and they can offer sake to go at the same time. Hey, how about 25% off all of our sake? We've got this, hey, that's a great idea. I mean, I'll grab one of these bottles and take it home too. So it works really well. The restaurants that have been doing that have seen better successes. I'm not saying everybody has to do that. I'm just saying, throwing that out as an idea. Outdoor dining is pretty limited, especially depending on where you're located. If you're in a warm area of the country, then it's probably fine. But if you're in some area, I know we have some people from Alaska on, and even here in the Northwest, it's been pretty cold. So it may not work that well, outdoor dining. I mean, people are getting very creative in what they do, but outdoor dining is going to increase as the weather improves. And we need to be ready to help sell sake during this time. We need to be talking to accounts now about post-COVID. When I say post-COVID, I just mean after restaurants open again, what kind of programs do they want to have on their menu at that point? Start talking to restaurants now about their plans for that instead of waiting to the last minute. And then in the meantime, keep helping them have a lineup of sake for the restaurant that's working currently in a to-go system. Next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about today's event. It is a combined event we have a lot of different states involved with us, and so I'm very happy about. And obviously we're not doing tasting, and because a lot of us are from different states, prices are going to vary, and you may see a few products that are not available in your area. But the way to follow up with this is talk directly to your sales representative about something that interests you in what you've seen today. If there's a new item that's coming, check with your salesperson about when they think it's going to come. We're going to try to announce when some of these are coming, but what the pricing is, or a current item that you didn't know about or you're really interested in, find out what the pricing is. Talk to your sales representative. So we're not doing a Q&A live with this program because it's just going to be too hard to keep up with that. If there's something I see, I can jump out and maybe say something, but for the most part, you're going to have to just do the follow-up with your sales representative. And if you're needing sake training, if you're in Oregon, and I spelled John Hansen's name wrong. Sorry about that, John. It's not Hansei, it's Hanson. as it says in the email. And then if you're in Washington, you can contact Madeline Weber, and she will help, obviously, as you know, help you with trainings. If you're in any of those places or any outside of Oregon or Washington, anywhere, please contact me and I can help with virtual trainings or whatever you might need. We have a lineup of amazing people today. First off, again, I wanted to thank Vine Connection so much because this whole thing wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for them. And Monica stepped up and said, hey, why don't you use our system? And we have an amazing person, Jennifer, who can help make this happen. So I wanted to thank Monica. As I mentioned before, John Gauntner is going to be part of this today. And from SakeOne, we're going to have a couple different, well, we have a presentation from the brewery, and we're actually going to have an interview with Takumi Kuwabata, who is the Toji, or the brewmaster at SakeOne. And we are going to have a direct presentation from Japan, from Hakutsuru. And it's going to be super fun. They have a really fun, exciting item they're going to be talking about. And then the amazing Jennifer Ross, who most of us know, near and dear to my heart. Jennifer is going to be showing us some newer selections from the Joto / Kobrand lineup. And then from Takara, and maybe some people don't really know, Takara is the parent company. They've been the second longest brewery in the US after Ozeki, 1 year after Ozeki, in 1980, I think, when they were established, but they're in Berkeley. And their main brand is Shochikubai. And we have Sam, who I've worked with for many, many years, and Sam's got some really cool stuff to show us today. And then we have JFC and Raymond and Satomi from JFC. And all I can tell you is, Raymond, you do not want to miss his presentation. It's going to be unique. And then we have SakeMan. Today we have SakeMan Red and SakeMan White, who are going to be spreading the gospel of sake to all of us. We also have Ozeki, and from Ozeki we have Funata-san, who is the national sales manager, and Azusa-san. And I'm going to embarrass Azusa-san a little bit here. In all of the WSET 3 classes that I've taught, I've never seen a higher score in tasting than what Azusa-san did. It was almost perfect. It was, wow. I was really shocked. It was amazing. Sorry, Azusa-san, I had to embarrass you a little bit. And my screen's not showing me, but also we have from Hakushika, Hasegawa-san and Matsuki-san, who are both signing in to us from Nishinomiya, which is the home of Miyamizu, or Heavenly Brewing Water. So we have a really fun lineup today. I think I'm probably way ahead of schedule, so I'm going to discuss some other things. Let me check the chat real quick. Make sure I didn't miss any. Yeah, okay, good. All right. So Jen, there's not another slide today after this, is there? Oh yeah, there we go. So this slide, this picture, pretty picture, right? It was actually taken from my living room window in Portland. So I'm going to kind of use this as my guide to 2021 to say it's going to be much better than what 2020 was, even though we had good sake sales. But as we all know, there's a lot of the things behind it that we want to get through. So this COVID thing sucks. Let's just be honest about it. But we have to get creative, and that's what we're doing today. So I wanted to also talk, since I have some time before we have our first presentation, which starts at 3 o'clock. I wanted to talk a little bit about some clarification on some things. And I don't have a slide for it, so I'm just going to start speaking. I wanted to make sure that something I've done with menus in the past few years is when I'm talking about for restaurants right now, I used to list Jumai Honjozo, Jumai Genjo, Jumai De Genjo, and list them like that. And I've kind of gone away from doing that. And I found that a much, much better way, a more effective way to help consumers and the staff is to list things on a menu by flavor profile. So for instance, dry and earthy. You have sakes that would fit into that category under dry and earthy, no matter what they actually are. If they're jumai, or maybe there's a drier daiginjo, something like that that would fit into that is going to go under the heading of dry and earthy. And then we have maybe smooth and elegant, or fruity floral, or whatever descriptors. You don't want to have too many, maybe 3 sections. And then you have specialty sake, which would be cloudy sake, and then maybe sparkling sake or infused sake. So I think it's important to think about sake in a different way. It's not that we don't want to teach what a Jumai Genjo is, Jumai Daigenjo is, Jumai, but I've been doing this for nearly 30 years. And I'm still saying the same thing over and over and over to some people that still are not getting it. So it's easier to understand flavor profiles, and customers, and especially as we know, restaurant staff changes over all the time. So instead of trying to make sure they understand what Jumai Genjo is, they have their sound polish ratio and all that kind of stuff, it's way easier just to jump to what the customer really expects is, what am I expecting from the flavor profile? I do teach them the background stories about all the sake. And I love talking about stories from sake. So the sake is got this rich history of 200 years, or really a cool story about the toji, or a really cool story about the brewery. So I tell the story, and the menu is kind of a salesperson for you already, because it's already talking about what the flavor is going to be like. So the customer already knows, oh, this is going to be, what do I expect the flavor from? This is going to be in the dry and earthy, or dry earthy section, or umami driven section. So I know what to expect flavor wise, but what else can you tell me about it? And that's when you tell a little bit of the history. Trying to explain what all the technical terms means in that kind of setting sometimes just slows things down and makes it more confusing, especially if the staff doesn't know. They're going to avoid talking about it because they're afraid of it, because they don't understand it. But they can easily understand a flavor profile and a fun little fact about the brewery that maybe they remembered, or they had their favorite, or something like that. So when you're doing restaurant menus, kind of rethink the way it's been done in the past with the categories, and instead maybe list it by flavor profiles. I do still put, and I also put English names. I know a lot of, especially like Vine Connections and Joto, a lot of in SakeOne, a lot of companies have English names and then the Japanese name. And I recommend using an English name, because not everybody in that restaurant's going to know what, or speak Japanese usually. And so use the English name, it's identifiable, it's not scary. And then you put the Japanese name next to it, including what the category is. It's a Jumai Daigenjo, or Tokubetsu Honjozo, or whatever the case may be. But use an English name, Japanese name, what it is. And then maybe you can write a few words of descriptor, but I don't know that how necessary that is, because it already says it's going to be dry and earthy. I think you can also just kind of put family owned since whatever the, 1743, whatever it might be. Those are just suggestions, but I've seen them be very successful. And of course, we all know that we want to do sake by the glass. Sake lasts for a very long time after it's been opened. So we should not be selling bottle only that much. We should try to focus on by the glass once the restaurant's open again. Obviously now it's a completely different setting and different situation. So, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. For retail, again, I think shelf talkers have been very effective when you have a store that allows the shelf talkers. Sometimes it gets a little messy, but if shelf talkers are allowed, our suppliers have shelf talkers. If we go in and get them printed, we print them. They have them online at their trade shots, and then get it printed and then add it to the shelf, because those are effective. I watch people read those. And sometimes it's selected based upon the shelf talker. Sometimes they select it based upon the label, or this looks really cool. But a lot of times they also select it based upon them looking for a particular sake that they fell in love with before. Sometimes if they have help, then they're looking for something new and different. So retail is very, very vibrant. Please don't ignore the retail set. And it is doing a lot of good these days. So All right. I know we're early, but I'm hoping that maybe Monica can, even though I know she's got it timed to exactly 10 minutes, I'm hoping you can add a little bit to your presentation for a few minutes. But I wanted to introduce Monica Samuels. I think pretty much everybody knows her, but Monica is the Vice President of Sake and Spirits for Vine Connections. How many years have you been there now, Monica?
Last week, actually, was my 7-year anniversary.
Congratulations, 7 years, wow. She's made a humongous impact at Vine Connections, where they used to be, primarily a wine company, and now they're just as much a sake company as they're a wine company, if not more so. She's also a sake samurai, and she's a very good friend of mine, and I have nothing but ultimate respect for Monica. So, Monica, take it away.
Thank you, Marcus. This is really exciting to be here. I know that you would not have missed the 15th year of this trade show, no matter how many challenges came in our way. And it's really exciting to see that we have 188 people on this webinar. And that really speaks to your perseverance. I think that to be on this webinar, you have to be excited about sake, or at least curious. And it takes a lot more than that to create this kind of audience and engagement. And so you've paved the way for a lot of us, and it's really exciting to be able to work together and look towards the future and all the different ways that we can grow together. So I have, if you know me, you probably know that I'm always trying to get people to stop taking sake so seriously. And so I thought we have a fun presentation, or I'm going to be having fun. Hopefully you will too, to start this off. And then we're going to cap things off with my sake senpai, and probably a lot of people's sake senpai on this webinar, with the sake guy, John Gauntner, talking about heirloom rice strains. So Jen, I think we can go ahead and throw the slideshow up here. So my topic today is sake and junk food, and it's not just trying to be silly. There's a couple of reasons that I wanted to dive in here. And, I think people are always asking, what's the best way to heat sake? What's the best glass for sake? What's the best pairing for the sake? And it's kind of just endless how geeky you can get. But some of my favorite experiences drinking sake, and I'm sure a lot of you on this webinar can relate, is when you're taking a bullet train trip in Japan and you stop at the train station at the convenience store and you pick up all kinds of salty, fatty, spicy, sweet snacks, and you get a bottle of sake for the train, and it's just really delicious. And I think we can go to the next slide, Jen. I think that now that we're all drinking at home more than we ever have, I talk to a lot of people who feel the pressure of coming up with these perfect pairings and having the right glassware. And I think it doesn't need to be that serious. I had this light bulb moment over the summer, and I think a lot of us have been spending more time outside because it's harder to catch the virus outside. And so I've been having a lot of picnics before it was freezing cold, as it is now in New York. And I was sitting in Central Park with some friends, and we had this smorgasbord of different snacks. And so my friend made onigiri, these rice balls, and I was eating a rice ball, and I'm a total salt fiend, and it's really something I'm trying to work on. But there wasn't enough seasoning on the onigiri, and there was a big bag of Doritos, and I started dipping the onigiri in the Dorito dust and eating it. And I was like, Dorito dust is kind of like furikake. It's like a really ghetto furikake. And so I started thinking about all the elements of flavor that go with sake that are in junk food in general. And I'm always excited to find an area where sake can be stronger than wine in terms of pairing. And wine really doesn't go with a lot of junk food. And most sake does go with most food, including junk food. And so today, what I wanted to accomplish, or just excite you about doing, is not to take it so seriously about having the correct sake drinking experience, because this has been a hard time for everyone, and we don't need to. Sometimes I'm just done doing any more dishes, and I want to drink sake out of like 3 different sakes out of 1 cup, eat chips out of the bag. And it just you don't have to overthink it. And I also just wanted to try to challenge some of these sakes a little bit in ways that I don't think you would want to do with wine. So we can go to the next slide. So the what I've prepared for you today, and I really think the guy at 7-Eleven thought that I was on a lot of drugs when I bought these. I have some Cool Ranch Doritos because this really started my journey with exploring sake and junk food. And Cool Ranch Doritos have umami, they have salt. They really make sense to go with sake. I have peanut M&Ms. So we have sweet and salt here. I have some teriyaki beef jerky, which is sweet, salt, umami, fat. I was talking to John Hansen about how I wanted to do something that was a little more Portland, and he reminded me that you guys are obsessed with voodoo donuts. And although I couldn't get voodoo donuts, I think one of the famous voodoo donut trademarks is the bacon maple bar. So there's a donut shop near me that tries to do a voodoo donut inspired bacon maple bar. And then I thought we would really try to challenge things. So I have flaming hot Cheetos. Probably have never been paired with wine ever. So I have 3 sakes, and we can go to the next slide. The first sake is Tozai Snow Maiden. You guys have probably had this before. It's a really unique, well, I don't know. I think it's a really special nigori. It's our top selling item at Vine Connections. There's not a single wine that we carry that we sell more of than Snow Maiden. And nigori is such an approachable category in the US. You know, it's not too cerebral most of the time. It's very just fresh and new and fun. As you guys know, nigori, what gives nigori its cloudiness is dissolved rice during fermentation. So it is natural, the cloudiness, and it just gives a really satisfying mouthfeel. I find that Snow Maiden is one of the more expressive nigoris that I've had. If you're familiar with the sake, or if any of you are tasting along, I know that some people did obtain samples beforehand. I always think that on the nose, it just smells like you're carving a pumpkin. There's something about the inside of an American pumpkin that's so prominent in the sake. Also quite a bit of green melon, kind of a spicy radish note. So this nigori in particular, I think is really a workhorse when it comes to junk food, because it has that rich, creamy texture that I think will tame intense flavors. So I think I'm going to choose 2 snacks with each sake. And I think I will start with I'm going to start with Flaming Hot Cheetos, because this is probably the hardest one to pair. You know, most sake goes with most foods, except spicy food can be really challenging. You need a big sake, and Flaming Hot Cheetos, I haven't had these in a while, but I was reminded today that they are actually quite spicy. So I'm going to give this the taste test. And if you've tasted sake with me, you probably know that I always recommend making a sake sandwich when you're evaluating a food pairing. You want to have a little bit of sake, a bite of food, and some more sake, so that you can really feel what's happening with these flavors commingling in your mouth. That actually was not bad. There's a lingering heat, but it doesn't amplify the heat in the sake at all. And I ate one of these without the sake, and it was almost intolerable how spicy it was. And this really does tame the spice. So I'm very excited. Now I'm going to give this sake a little more of a softball, and I'm going to try it with the bacon maple donut. This was a great idea, bacon maple donut. It hits so many different flavors. You know, I think people look down on junk food because it seems really trashy, but it satisfies so many of our, like, what we just organically crave flavor-wise. And so you have the fat, the umami, the salt, the sweetness from the maple, and the sake becomes a lot more expressive with all of those flavors. So I think that was a win. Next slide. So the next slide is Cowboy Yamahai. I'm going to give this one a softball and then challenge it a little bit, because Cowboy Yamahai, we know, is meant to go with beef. This is producer that really bucks the trend. This is a producer in Niigata Prefecture. And so Niigata is known for crisp and clean and dry sakes. And I think they can just be really, really, really refreshing. And when you want something that's innocuous, that is just really easy drinking, Niigata sakes are such a wonderful solution. And this producer, Shiokawa Shuzo, he started making Yamahai sake as kind of an experiment. And ultimately, most of his sake production now is Yamahai. And even though some people view it as the anti-Niigata sake, it's really delicious and it really makes a statement. And I think a sake like this is great to have both in retail and restaurants because there's no question about what to do with it. And these days when we see Wagyu beef in so many different programs outside of just Japanese restaurants, I think there's a huge opportunity for it. But this sake, to me, has a lot in common with a big oaky red wine. I mean, there's a wood note on the nose, there's vanilla, there's cocoa on the finish, kind of a barnyardy, funky smoked meat quality that you can find on some old world red wines. I'm gonna do this with the beef jerky. I knew that was gonna be fantastic. We have the smokiness of the beef with the smokiness of the sake, that little bit of sweetness. Sake works so well with a combination of sweet and savory, or sweet and salty. And yeah, it's fantastic. So because I get so much cocoa on this sake, I did want to try it with a sweeter pairing. So we're going to try it with the peanut M&Ms. Sorry if I'm just sitting here gorging myself. I hope it's entertaining. So we're going to make the sake sandwich. I actually prefer this pairing, and I prefer it for a couple of reasons. I always like to change people's minds. Cowboy Yamahai, you know it's going to work with beef. There's no question about that. But pairing sake with dessert can be kind of challenging because if we borrow from the world of wine, a lot of dessert pairings with wine tend to be sweet and sweet. And for me, someone who's not a big dessert person to begin with, that is just too much sweet. But I think with the having a sake that doesn't have tannins, it just really expands the possibility of how you can pair with desserts. And I think the saltiness in the peanuts really, really helped elevate that pairing. So I don't know if you can call pairing M&Ms with sake elevated, but I'm going to give it a shot. So next slide. So this slide, I thought I would try to pair something really elevated and sophisticated and elegant with junk food to see if we could do that highbrow, lowbrow successfully. So Takatenjin, Soul of the Sensei, this is a really juicy Jumai Daiginjo that's quite dry on the finish. And Shizuoka Prefecture is kind of known for juicy sakes that are dry on the finish. Because of this sensei that really, he was such a pioneer in Shizuoka. And a lot of people say that he put this region on the map for making great sake. And he isolated the yeast that's known as Shizuoka yeast that gives you that juicy, bright, dry characteristic. So I'm going to pair it with the Cool Ranch Doritos first. I happen to, with my furikake, maybe it's my furikake light bulb moment that always makes me think that Doritos are really easy to pair with sake, but I think this should be a layup. Delicious. And I know we're just under 1 minute, so I'm going to do one more pairing with the beef jerky. I think that people get intimidated about pairing ginjo styles with beef. It's actually my friend Namazake Paul, who's on this call, who, when we did a steak event, he was like, "Oh, I can't wait for people to try the ginjo with the beef." And it's got me thinking a lot about it. But this is going to be amazing, so I'm going to go ahead and eat it. And it brings up an umami in the sake that wasn't even there until I combined it with the teriyaki beef jerky. So next slide. Thanks so much for watching me eat junk food. If you have any questions, my email is up here. If you have any ideas, virtual events, as you know, we're in very good hands with our team here. Would love to work with you guys more in the future. Thanks so much. Thank you, Marcus, for the opportunity.
Monica is awesome. Thank you. Everybody's clapping, I know. Okay. Thank you. All right, next up, we are going directly to Japan, and we have a presentation from Hakutsuru. So are you guys there?
Hello.
Hi, this is Anna. So we have with us from Japan, we have Anna Noda, Shota Nakagawa, and Haru Takase. So take it away, Hakutsuru.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Anna.
My name is Anna from Hakutsuru Sake Brewery. Today, I'm presenting you our brewery live show from Kobe, Japan.
So we can't see your screen. Is that okay so far? We're not seeing anything yet.
Wait a minute.
There you go. So it's you guys are sideways for some reason. There we go. Oh, okay. All right, there we go. We're good. All right, thank you.
Do you see me?
Yes.
Sorry. And now I'm at Hakutsuru Sake Brewery Museum in Kobe. In this museum, we display the process of brewing sake in traditional way using old tools. This museum was built about 100 years ago as Hakutsuru's main brewing factory and brewed sake until 1969. In 1982, it was rebuilt as the museum. These days, unfortunately, we have a few tourists visiting this museum, but every year, normally, we have many tourists from other places in Japan and from foreign countries. As you walk through the museum, you can see the whole process of making sake from the beginning to the end. For example, this initiation process where these wooden tanks were actually used for fermentation. Kurabito, like the guy on top, used to take care of moromi and watch and control the fermentation process. For those of you who might not very familiar with us, I will explain about us and our area a bit. We, Hakutsuru Sake Brewery, started brewing sake in 1743. So we've been operating sake brewing business for more than 250 years. Hakutsuru Sake Brewery is located in Kobe City, as you might know, in Hyogo Prefecture. When you hear the word Kobe, you might come up with Kobe beef as the famous local food. Sake is also representative local product in Kobe and other areas nearby in Hyogo Prefecture. We are located in Nada district in Kobe City. Nada is the leading sake production area known throughout Japan. The reason why Nada is famous for making sake is that we have good resources for brewing sake, rice and water. In the mountainous area in Hyogo Prefecture, they have rich rice fields of sake rice such as Yamada Nishiki that we can use for sake making. Nada district has high quality natural spring water and cold winters. And those natural water is quite suitable for making sake. We have in Nada area, about 30 breweries in this district, and 30% of all Japanese sake are produced in Nada area. Hyogo Prefecture actually has the largest production of sake in Japan, and this Nara area contributes to it. As you can see, these are the types of sake containers, barrels. We show the process of making barrels in all the ways. For the sake containers, you will see a sake in glass bottle. Actually, a glass sake bottle was introduced in early 19th. And this is a little known fact that Hakutsuru was the first brewery to sell sake in glass bottle. Currently, we have 3 brewing factories. We use the latest technology to produce large amount of sake, keeping the high quality throughout the year. The production is systematically done in each factory, but still some of the sakes for premium type, still we make by hand. The first presentation of Hakutsuru sake outside of Japan was 100 years ago at World's Fair in Paris. Since then, we've been working very hard to promote our sake overseas to let more people know and try our sake. Thanks to our hardworking staffs and most of all our Hakutsuru fans like Marcus-san, our sake is now enjoyed in over 50 countries around the world. So now, today we have you. So we would like to introduce our new sake in USA markets upcoming in the near future. We have a couple of minutes, but I would like to give next couple of minutes to Haru-san in USA, in Los Angeles. So please.
Go ahead, Haru-san.
Hi. Okay, let me.
Hello. Go ahead. We
Hello?
can hear you.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you and we can
Okay.
hear you.
All
Nice
right.
to see you again.
Hi everyone, I'm Haru from Hakutsuru Sake of America. I'm here to introduce one new item that is Chika Sake Cup. Can you put the slide on the screen, please? Thank you. All right. So you might have seen some kind of same kind of item that sake comes in a small cup before, but Chika Sake Cup is very unconventional item. And the reason why I say it's unconventional item is that there's a character named Chika with a very detailed background stories that even non-existing sake drinker would enjoy. As a salesperson, I hate to admit, but more often than not, purchasing sake requires knowledge to some extent, such as rice polishing rate or what kind of rice they use. And because that is their selling point, that is what makes each sake item different from the others. However, this is not the concern for this Chika Sake Cup because the selling point of this item is the character and her stories. Let me tell you a little about Chika here. So Chika is 90s kid from Kobe, Japan. So she's, I guess, a millennium. So in her college days in Kobe, she made friends with many exchange students. Though they come from different backgrounds, sake was how they connected. After graduation, Chika wanted to share the special connection of linking tradition and modern times. So her purpose here is to spread the message of fun and joy filled with smile that comes with enjoying Chika sake cup. So these are just a small part of her stories. And these stories, the entire stories, are going to be on every social medias, including Twitter, Instagram, and now we are creating own website, which is shikasakecup.com. Can you change the screen to my camera, please? Thank you. So here's the actual item. This is what it looks like. So Chika is going to be printed on the cup. So after drinking, consumers, they can enjoy using these cute cups. And as you can see, the design of every component of this item is about Chika. There's her face, and on the other side, it's so cute. And we are expecting this item to catch attention from not only already existing sake drinkers, but also non-traditional sake drinkers, such as millennials, who are willing to try something new. But in order to catch their attention, social promotion on social media and storytellings are required. So I hope you like what I just told you.
We're looking forward to it, Haru-san. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, so I think we're gonna probably landing sometime in March, and then after that should be available at some point after that. So check with your representative, and Hakutsuru, thank you today. Appreciate it very much.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right, next we have up from JFC, my buddy Leiko, or Raymond, but he's also known as the Sultan of Sake. So here's Leiko.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. Greetings to all my sake lovers and soon to be Reiko Swami lovers. Today, Marcus has sent a security agent delivery of this package I will open live on air. And this package contains questions in sealed envelopes. I will use my magical telekinesis and give you the answers to the questions before I open the envelope.
All right, top secret.
Top secret. To do this, I will need silence. Marcus, are you there?
I'm here.
I need silence. Okay. I will hold this to my head. And the answer comes to me. Nara, where Chorio Brewery is located. Where was the birthplace of sake? So Chorio Brewery was established in 1923 in Nara, the known birthplace of sake. Okay, I didn't know that.
Raymond, is there more slides, or are we just looking at this, right?
Oh, there's more slides.
I don't know, is there?
Yeah, I forgot my slideshow behind me, folks. I got
Yeah, I
nervous.
just want to help you keep
So
up with it.
Chorio, and that's a picture of Nara there. Okay. Well, the next answer I have was
Wait, and wait, what is Taruzake?
Taruzake is sake that has been cedar in a barrel or picked up the cedar scent from a barrel. Chorio does it the best way by actually making barrels and letting their sake soak, where some people might just throw some chunks in a tank or something, but Chorio does it traditionally. Okay?
Awesome. Right.
Marcus, Yoshino Sugi Taruzake. And I open up the question. What was the name of the first bottled Taruzake in Japan? Wow. Chorio Brewery was the first brewery to bottle Taruzake in 1964. The Taruzake has been aged in handcrafted wooden cedar barrels, as you can see by the picture behind us. Oh, I got the answer for Chuck Norris, Ringo Starr, Al Pacino, and cedar wood. And the question, name things over 80 years old. So,
I can't believe
the
Chuck
virgin
Norris
cedar wood
is
used to make
80
sake barrels must be at least 80 years old and age another year to dry. All the barrels have been handcrafted by artisans that have passed down the barrel making for generations. The sake is aged in these barrels for 3 weeks. Okay, any questions, Marcus? I hope not.
I'm just surprised. It's hard for me to imagine Chuck Norris being over 80.
January 11th. When is Kagami Baraki Day in Japan? Wow. Kagami Baraki is a ceremony event where people crack open a barrel for sake or cut out mochi to offer the gods for good fortune. So January 11th is a good day to promote and drink taru sake. Chilled room temperature. And what does the envelope say? What temperature can you drink taru sake at? Chilled is the most popular, but room temperature is a favorite, and you get a lot more flavor and aroma at room temperature. Look at her. Yes. That's pretty broad there. Does Yoshino Sugi Taru Sake come in a Yamahai? Yes, it does. So Yamahai is a yeast starter method that was developed after Kuramoto, but before Sokucho. Yamahai allows for natural lactic acid production without Yama Oroshi. Pole ramming.
Good for you.
I'm lost here. Katsuma City, Fukui Prefecture. And the question is, what city was ranked #1 by Forbes magazine as the cleanest city in Japan? So Katsuma City is also home of Ippongi Brewery, established in 1902, makers of Denshin sakes. You might see Yuki and Ine there in the picture.
And it's also very famous for dinosaur fossils, the most famous place in all of Japan for dinosaur fossils. They have a dinosaur museum there. I've been to it.
I even put a dinosaur in the picture.
You did.
Yep. Ultimate truth. What could that be? Could that be you, Marcus?
Always.
What does Ippongi mean in Zen terms? Ippongi comes from the Zen term Daiichi Gitai, which means ultimate truth.
I did not know that.
Okay, next one. Let me hold it to my head to figure out what it is. And Koshino Shizuku. What is that? What rare sake rice is grown in Fukui Prefecture and exclusive to the region? So Ippongi Brewery uses this locally grown rare type of sake rice, Koshino Shizuku, for rice for their sakes.
Very cool.
Okay, we're moving along here. Hanya To. Hanya To. Question is, what unique sweet and spicy drink will you get hooked on after one taste and wanting to tell all your friends? Hanya To. So a quick story, Marcus got hooked on Hanya To, and they only made the small side there, the 150 milliliter, and Marcus had to make a larger format for on and off premise for economical purposes, which is a great idea. Great bottle too.
It is.
Okay, the next question. We're down to the last two. And this one says, Fuyu, Haru, Natsu, and Aki. I don't think that's James Taylor's song.
Winter, spring, summer, and fall.
Winter, spring, summer, and fall. What are the 4 seasonal namazakes from Ippongi Brewery that you can pre-order from Marcus and Maddie? Wow. So here's a real interesting story on this. Quick story. So Marcus, you were in Japan, I remember this, and then you called me because you had this product at a tasting at Daiei Supermarket. You called me and asked if JFC carried this item, and I said no, and you said it's phenomenal. I want it, so yada, yada, yada. And due to your good taste, now we have it. Thank you, Marcus.
Awesome. Very good. It was the Haru that I had.
Okay, and the last one. Okay. Settle down, folks. The last one is my ass. What could that be? The question is, what will Marcus kick if I mess up this virtual show? Marcus, violence isn't the answer.
You did just fine, Raymond. All right.
Okay, well, anyway, I hope everybody will try the Taru sake and the Denshin sake and the Hanyu. Marcus, I want to thank you and RNDC for continuing this show even in this hard times and making a way for us to do this and promote. That's great. So this is the end of my presentation. I got one more slide to show you, but just to let everybody know out there, I am also for hire for children's parties, weddings, and bar mitzvahs. Just call me at 1-800-GO-RACO. Be safe and drink responsible. And now, one last slide before I cut off. You will buy my sake. You will buy my sake.
All right. Thank you, Raymond.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. All right. That was fun. Next up, we have the amazing Jennifer Ross, Western Regional Manager for Kobrand and Joto Sake. Many of you may know, Jennifer and I started our relationship together back when she was the sake manager for Young's Market in Washington. And now she's at Kobrand, and she is a fantastic sake, passionate sake person. And I learn stuff from her all the time. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here today. So take it away.
Thank you, Marcus. All right. You guys see me? No?
There you are. Now we can
Oh,
see.
good. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. And it's great to be here. And thank you all for joining the Sake Show Zoom 2021. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about a few new Joto sake that we got mid 2020, you know, right when the world got really messy. So I don't know if a lot of you have tasted these new sake. Hopefully you have, and if you haven't, then you'll get to taste them after today. So let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the first sake we're gonna start out with comes from a really familiar brewery, one that has been with Joto sake since the beginning when Joto first started importing in 2005, and that is the Tomita Brewery located in Shiga Prefecture. This is the oldest brewery that Joto works with. They've been were established in 1540 and is currently run by the 15th generation of the Tomita family, the gentleman that you see on the far right, Tomita-san right there. So in mid 2020, we got started importing their Junmai Ginjo. We can go to the next slide so we can see this beautiful bottle. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this brand new sake. So Shichionyari Ginfubuki Junmai Ginjo is, Ginfubuki is actually the name of the rice that they're using to brew this sake. And what's really special about this is Ginfubuki is a hybrid rice that's a hybrid of Tamazakai, the local rice of Shiga Prefecture, and Yamada Nishiki. And Tomita-san started working with his local his local rice farmer, who you see in the below picture there. They're really good friends. And when I got to visit this brewery a few years ago, we got to meet him. And forgive me that I don't remember what generation he is of his family, that they've been farming rice for X amount of generations and now works with Tomita-san to produce this rice that was registered as a sake rice in 1999. And I think what I remember learning about it is that they wanted to make a rice that added a little bit of a fruit note, because Tamazakai, which they use for a lot of sake brewed by Tomita Brewery, always gives an earthier style. If you know the house style of Tomita Brewery, it's very umami driven flavors. You always get really beautiful cedar notes, kind of a smoky, mushroomy. And by doing this hybrid with Yamada Nishiki, it gives a little bit of a fruit undertone, which makes this Junmai Ginjo so beautiful. So they're using yeast 1401. And what's really nice is that you're still going to get the Tomita house style, but you're definitely going to get these really luscious red apple notes, a little bit of pear, cocoa powder. And I just think that it's definitely the fruitiest thing that I've ever tasted from these guys, but still, you know, their house style really comes through in the sake as well. Next slide. Okay, the next sake that we're going to talk about comes from Tajima Brewery, located in Fukui Prefecture. And we were so excited to get a new sake from these guys, because for a while now, we've been carrying only one sake from them. I'm sure you all know from looking at the label of the Junmai Ginjo, the happy owl, that you've seen their Yamahai Junmai that Joto's been selling. So getting their Junmai Ginjo was just, we've really been wanting to get something else from them. If you follow them on social media, you can tell they're doing so many cool things in Japan. They're really innovative, traditional yet innovative, and their Yamahai Junmai Ginjo is a beautiful example of that. Let's go to the next slide where we see some information about this new sake. So one of the things that I think, we've always tried to share with everybody about Tajima Brewery is that they exclusively brew Yamahai sake. They don't make any kimoto, and they don't do any, oh my gosh, I'm losing my words right now, sokujo. So, and they don't do any modern method of brewing. Their Toji, who is since, he's either retired or kind of in the process of retiring, and Tajima-san's, Tajima-san son is going to be taking over as Toji for them shortly if he hasn't already. I need to confirm. But they brew exclusively Yamahai, and the Yamahai Junmai Ginjo is such, I mean, this is a sake that I've been trying to get to know more and more. There's a lot going on with it because while the Yamahai character really comes through in the sake, it's just balanced so beautifully with that softness of the Junmai Ginjo polish. And what we learned is that they're using Koshi no Shizuku sake rice. I've never had a sake brewed with that rice before, so it was really fun to learn about a new sake rice and taste a sake made with it. And we learned that it's a crossbreed of Hyogo Kita Nishiki and Miyami Nishiki. And these, the hybrid of these two sake rice makes for a really rich, full-bodied flavor profile. And the other thing that I'm learning about this brewery is that they have a really special connection to special yeasts, proprietary yeasts, like the one they're using to brew the sake, but also the yeast that they use for their junmai, which is a cherry blossom yeast that because of Tajima-san Sr., so the president, the father, he has a very special relationship with a professor that he studied under at the Tokyo University of Agriculture that allowed him to get access to this cherry blossom yeast that they use for their junmai. So next time you guys get to taste their junmai, look for the hints of that, even though, it's very, very subtle. And even with this sake as well, I think that the idea is for it to have low aromatics to keep it very food friendly. But it definitely gives it like this very elegant quality where you get, like I said, the Yamahai character, but it doesn't go very funky. I mean, it stays very like kind of clean and restrained and just has a very nice astringency, like a little bit of like that bite or bitterness that you get with Yamahai styles. So I really encourage you guys to taste these sake if you haven't already. Really, really fun. I've also just trying to kind of figure out how I enjoy them most. I'm going to recommend trying them room temperature, maybe slightly chilled, but they really shine when they're room temperature or even warm. Cold, they get a little bit closed up in my opinion. So again, it's just preference. You guys test it, try them, eat lots of food, enjoy them. And please, any questions, you can always reach out to me, email, phone. I'm happy to help. That's about it for me.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate it. And we will hear back from Jennifer again later today on a couple other sake. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So next we have SakeMan, Kuramoto, US. And today we have with us SakeMan Red and SakeMan White. SakeMan, can you take it over, please?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SakeMan segment of the SakeMan Show. Hey, Marcus, thank you so much for everything that you do to help spread sake throughout the world. Of course, we are SakeMan, as you can tell by my awesome custom-made sake mask. We are here to help save the world from a fearful sake environment. We want to be there to help educate, to help promote, to let you try it, introduce you to the world of beautiful sake. We started many years ago, and we import craft sakes for JFC and for RNDC. We're happy to be here today and hope everyone's having an exciting 2021. Hopefully this year we can see some changes and that people we'll be back in the restaurants ordering more sake. So without further ado, why don't we get started? All right, first we're going to talk about the sake rice Goriki. But first, I need help from SakeMan Red. Hey, SakeMan Red, come in here. Hi, everybody. SakeMan Red here. Thank you for the introduction, SakeMan White. Yeah, and as he said, we are the importers. We're here to help deliver a very unique sake experience. First and foremost, again, thank you, Marcus. And thank you everyone involved, and hopefully you guys can pick up something interesting today with all the different presentations. They've been great so far. There's usually 4 of us, but on the West Coast, it's just white and red. Blue and green are on the East Coast, spreading sake where it's a little bit colder right now. So without further ado, why don't we get started? And we're gonna be discussing 2 breweries today. One of them is in Tottori Prefecture, and this is an example of how much fun we like to have. We're just jumping for joy that Marcus decided to do this type of presentation and keep the sake show going. Next slide, please. Yes, and we are going to Tottori Prefecture for Chiyomusubi Brewery. If we can bring up the next 2 other points as well. Established back in 1865, and their name Chiyomusubi translates to eternal tides. They're all about bringing people together, about developing new, strong relationships, whether it be father and or parents and kids, you know, husband and wife, and whatever. Friends and friends, of course, of course. So next slide, please. So they're all about bringing people together through sake. And they're also known, overall, their profile is a little bit stronger, a little bit more full-bodied. You know, and like SakeMan and like any superhero, we need strength. And that's why we drink Goriki, which means strong power. And it's actually a rice that's only allowed to be grown and used in the Tottori Prefecture. It was actually extinct for a little while. And this brewery discovered it and wanted to revive it and bring it back because, you know, during the war times, using this rice wasn't very efficient. It was very hard to grow. It's a much longer strain than, let's say, Yamada Nishiki or Gohaku Mongoku, and which means, you know, with heavy winds, it's going to be destroyed. And it was a little bit harder. So they decided to not, and then they brought it back because they knew how good this rice was. And they are the biggest producer and user of this rice. In the next few slides, we're going to show you, it's just going to show you the fields and give you an idea of this rice strain. So as you can see, very large grains. It looks similar to like a risotto. Very, very hard, dense grain. And then Goriki is actually polished to a daiginjo grade at 50%, but they still call it a ginjo. It's got very much a full-bodied flavor to it, a lot of aromas, a little heavier, and it's also a Muroka Genshu. All of Chiyomusubi's sake is a Muroka Genshu, so means no charcoal filtration and no dilution, so much heavier taste. And going back to those, you know, strong ties and developing relationships, this is Mr. Okosora with the glasses, with his fist raised, showing that strong power, and his son-in-law So to his left, and also some of the kurobito that are involved in making this sake, and also the rice farmers family, the husband and wife behind them. So again, keeping with those strong relationships, they always want to have a good relationship with the farmers as well. Always fun to have Mr. Okosora visit, and you know, you can feel his energy, you can feel his strong power when he's talking, and he just wants everyone to, you know, share sake with their friends, with their family, and help grow and develop even stronger relationships.
Hey, Nick,
Yes,
quick
sir.
question. The cup sake that has the eyeball on it, that is made with Goriki, correct?
That is correct. So one of our cup sakes, or one of 3 cup sakes available through Chiyomusubi, available with Marcus, is the Oyaji, the one with the eyeball, black label. And that one is also made with Goriki. So if a 720 might be a little bit too much for you, can't handle it by yourself or with 1 or 2 of your friends, we can always do it the personal size and pick up the Oyaji cup sake as well. That is correct. Same exact sake, just in a smaller, cuter packaging. And so we can move on to the next slide. Oh, yes, please.
You might be thirsty.
Thank you. Kanpai, everybody.
Kanpai.
And so our next brewery, we're moving over to Yamaguchi Prefecture. We can bring up the next bullet points as well. Established in 1875. And this is actually our president of our company, Mr. Yamagata. He was the one responsible for actually getting refrigerated containers from Japan over into America. So before that, they would just use dry containers, which is why the sake would get a little bit harsher, maybe not keep its freshness, with the namas or the daiginjos. When he visited about 20 years ago, he noticed that everywhere was just selling hot sake everywhere, couldn't find any type of cold sake. So he decided to create an exporting company and also the importing company to receive those cold containers. That way those daiginjos stay fragrant, the namas stay nama and nice and fresh, and we can enjoy the fresh, craftier sakes that we are now enjoying. So enjoying cold sake is still relatively new compared to, let's say, beer and wine. It's only about 21 years old now. So next slide, please. So thanks to Mr. Yamagata, we are able to enjoy really crisp Jumai ginjos, very aromatic Jumai daiginjos. We can bring in seasonal nama sakes, not have to worry about spoilage. So the next sake we're drinking is called Kaori Tsuru. Tsuru means the crane, and kaori is usually elegant aromas, fruity aromas. It's always meaning good smells. And so with this Kaori Tsuru, as you can see, it does have a crane on the label. As you can see, maybe up right there might be a little bit better. Typically, Jumai daiginjos are a little bit sweeter, but this is actually a little drier, has a nice crisp, sharp finish at the end. And so it makes it a very fruit-friendly Jumai daiginjo. It's got a very lemon type aroma on it. And I noticed one day when I was drinking this with some karage, as I spritzed my karage with a little bit of lemon juice, the smells from the karage with lemon juice and this paired perfectly. And so typically you don't think about a Jumai daiginjo and fried foods, but this one held up perfectly to that. And so this is also made with locally made Yamada Nishiki rice, which most of us know it's like the king of sake rices. And so, they want to keep their local farms in business as well. So they don't want to get it from anywhere else. So it's locally grown Yamada Nishiki. And for SakeMan, we're heroes trying to save people from a poor sake experience, but we also want to save the creatures as well. Though we can't fly, we want to save the creatures that can. And Mr. Yamagata actually donates a portion of sales from Kaori Tsuru to save these elegant cranes that visit during the winter time. And in those rice fields for Yamada Nishiki, they are using as the nesting grounds. And so over the years, Mr. Yamagata has noticed that these numbers have been going down, and he wanted to do something about that. So for you guys out there, if you've never tried Kaori Tsuru, just know with every bottle, with every case that you've purchased, you're saving the cranes and helping them, survive and thrive. So join SakeMan in the conservation effort of these cranes that visit Mr. Yamagata's rice fields. And again, kanpai. Kanpai. We just can't thank Marcus enough for always inviting us to these events. We miss seeing everybody in person, seeing the shocked faces of everybody when they see the masks and want to know what's going on. We have plenty of other different, many brands with Marcus. So if you're interested, reach out to him. If you have any other questions, you can always ask SakeMan and Marcus as well. So thank you so much for your time, and let's continue to bring sake to the world. Anything to add, SakeMan White? All right. Oh, yeah. So,
Hey, SakeMan White and Red. At some point, I need some kind of honorary SakeMan mask, I think,
That's a great idea, Marcus. We're going to keep that in mind as well. Don't worry.
Thanks.
We got something going for you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Guys. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Next up, we are going back to Japan, and we are going to visit with Hakushika. And today we have Matsuki-san and Hasegawa-san. Before they get started, I just want to mention, I want to give everybody, maybe people don't know, but I would not be in sake today if it wasn't for Hakushika. I got hired it was 1992 to brew sake for Hakushika. And that's what started me on this path of sake in my life. So Hakushika has a very special place in my heart because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Hakushika. So that being said, take it away, guys.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, Marcus-san and Jennifer-san. I'm also wearing masks. Okay. And thank you very much for inviting us this great opportunity. We are very, very excited to join it. So today, let us start with our promotional video, particular in winter season. So will you please switch to us so that Matsuki-san can handle the slideshows and the video by ourselves. Okay. So Matsuki-san, ready?
Yes, it starts.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Do you want Jen to run the slideshow now, or are you going to do it, Matsuki-san?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
By the way, where was the ice cave, the ice bar at?
Hokkaido.
Okay. Pretty cool.
Oh. Sorry about that. Yeah. So first of all, do you know what Hakushika is? Maybe you know the Hakushika is a Japanese sake brand. Our company name is Tatsuma Honke Brewing Company Limited. So brand name is Hakushika. So our brewery is located in Nishinomiya, Hyogo Prefecture. Ozeki-san is a location in the same city. It is 1 mile. So if we scream, they can hear us, they help us. So our company is established in 1662. So our owner is Tatsuma family. So our company has been running by same family in the same location. So what does Hakushika means? Haku means white and shika means deer. So Hakushika means white deer, which is subject of an old Chinese legend. Hakushika brand represents good taste, quality, and sense of tradition. We believe a little luxury enriches a life, such as a nice sake with delicious meal. Hakushika provides a consumer with an affordable luxury of taste. Nishinomiya is the west part of Japan between Osaka and Kobe. So this is our brewing facility, Rokkogura, and bottling facility, Hakushika. We are fortunate to have 3 gifts from the nature at the heart of Hakushika sake. Here is the water, as Maka-san told us before, and high quality of rice, cold winds that sweep down the slopes of Mount Rokko. To that are added the savoir-faire and the spirit of sake cultivated continuously for more than 350 years by generations of skilled brew masters. Through their intuitive interaction with koji and yeast, our brewers work carefully to obtain our naturally savory Hakushika sake. Hakushika aims to sake that is delicious to drink and full of umami flavor. Hakushika brand concept is to consumer with an affordable luxury of taste. So that is a Hakushika concept, and I introduce Hakushika briefly. So next, we wanna share the image video. So please share and please watch the video. Watching our video. So next, we'd like to introduce a new product. So Junmai Ginjo Gold Label. So regarding new product, we'd like to introduce Junmai Ginjo Gold Label today. As you know, the Junmai Ginjo. So there are several different types of sake, and the special designations are specified by the Japanese government. Junmai Ginjo is characteristic aroma and the flavor, exceptional clarity, because special brewing technique are used to make. As we explained, Hakushika sake's character is umami. Even though the taste is dry, you can feel a kind of sweetness, layer, and width of taste. That is umami. So as for this Junmai Ginjo sake, however, our toji especially focused on the aroma so that the sake beginner could enjoy it more casual. To obtain the aroma, this sake is used high aroma component productive yeast. The combination of Hakushika's umami and the fruity ginjo aroma makes luxuriously aromatic Junmai Ginjo. Regarding tasting notes, primary aroma is tree-ripened apple, touches melon and lychee. Secondary aroma, cream and yogurt from yeast. Third, aroma, mineral, and a little bit honey from storage. And body, the aromatic sweetness is spread in the mouth firstly, and then change to slightly dry taste with acidity gradually. The finish is smooth and creamy. So recommended food, it goes well with meat, especially beef and a juicy fried chicken. Serve temperature is well chilled, and we recommend the wine glasses for vessels because we want you to enjoy the aroma. So please try.
Matsuzuki-san, we're running out of time, but
Okay.
I appreciate your guys' presentation today. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you so much. Thank you for time.
Thanks, guys. All right.
Thank
Next
you.
up, we have from another sake brewery in Oregon, we have Midori Nakazawa, Regional Sales Manager for SakeOne, as well as the Toji Takumi Wabata. He is the Toji Brewmaster at SakeOne. I have to say, Midori is a very special person to me. I've learned a lot. She's actually one of my teachers. So anyway, take it away, Midori and Takumi-san.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Marcus, for putting this together. And also thank you for Monica and thank you for Jen to let us having the webinar with your company system. So thank you very much. So hi, everyone. This is Midori from SakeOne. Most of you know that SakeOne is a sake importer of sake, several sake from Japan, but also we brew sake in Oregon. And then those brands are Momokawa, G, Moonstone, Yomi. And today I have our brewmaster, Takumi Kuwabara, at a brewery. I would like to introduce you all to, introduce him to you all, because he usually is brewing busy at the brewery and he doesn't get to meet most of you. So Takumi-san, hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us. And please allow me to wear the mask for the social distancing.
Yeah, so Takumi-san, thank you for joining the presentation today. Most of you, most people know about the sake that you brew, like Momokawa and G and such, but most people don't know about you. You're a wonderful person, and we as a SakeOne cannot survive without you and your skill. So I would like to take this opportunity to really introduce you to people who enjoy sake. And I do have some questions for you, if you don't mind me asking about yourself. So sure. Let's start with this question. When did you join SakeOne?
I started to work to the SakeOne since 2017, and right now the mostly like past 3.5 years.
So before you joined SakeOne, overall, how long have you been making sake? In other words, how long have you been in the sake industry altogether?
I'm working sake business since 1992. So next year will be 30 years to the experience.
30 years, that's a long years. Within the 30 years, where did you brew sake? Is it all in Japan or in America or both, or maybe some other countries? Can you tell us?
Yeah, I hope I want the answer to the like a Mars or a moon or somewhere, but actually I have the experience in the in Japan 15 years and rest of the 15 years in US. So means the my 30 years experience exactly the half of in Japan and half in US.
And soon to be, you will have a longer sake brewing experience in US, right?
Yes.
As long as you're with us, right? And we're not gonna let you go anywhere.
Of course, yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, great. And you know that there are so many small microbreweries opening up in the United States, you noticed, and they're doing a great job. but also I get all these questions all the time is that, are there any difference between brewing sake in Japan and United States? If there is, what would be the difference that you personally feel or experienced?
Yes, so this is the very simple for everybody knows. The sake is the main ingredient is only the four. One is the rice, one is the water, one is the koji, and one is the yeast. And that's even in Japan and the US, and that's exactly same. But let's say in US, we have only a very limited source for the rice. Like in Japan, they have the bunch of the variety of the rice to brew, but we have the only couple the varieties. But it's kind of difficult to decide how is the polish rate and how long keep the storage. But this is the most biggest things between the Japan and here. And other hand, I'm feeling is the of course the workers. For Japan, the brewery, the worker is very high trained, of course, and everybody have the very more deep knowledge. But in US, not many people knows the what is the brewing sake. But I'm trying to more educate my guys, and actually I'm very lucky guy. My brew team is the everybody very high trained and also high motivated. So to brew the sake, so I feel is we can brew the more and more great sake in here, Oregon.
I know that SakeOne has 6 people in the brewing team. With the 6 people, including you, how many koku of sake do you usually brew in a year, approximately?
Let's say the approximately like 2,500 koku brew in the here right now.
Yeah, and then that's usually probably medium to smaller size of jizake microbrewery in Japan. And then our difference is that we, in United States, the sake brewery is only allowed to brew junmai sake. And here at our brewery, SakeOne, we focuses only making junmai ginjo or junmai daiginjo sake. And so with that being said, I know that we, or shall I say you, recently finished brewing the second batch of a very special limited junmai daiginjo called Naginata. Can you tell us a little bit about the sake for us?
Sure. That sake is called Naginata Junmai Daiginjo. And that is the starting experiment, let's say, 5 years ago.
Dan, can you pull up the slide?
That's a little before I joined the company. So after joining the company, then I gonna try to brew the many of the batches, like over 10 small batches. So we tried the new coach varieties and of course the rice and many of the polish rate and the yeast, and we tried many things, and then finally we decided to the style, the Naginata, to the brew here in Oregon.
Awesome. So, Takumi-san, I do believe that you have something to show to everyone, the Naginata brewing, the e-starter, correct? Can you show us?
Sure. Let's take a look. So even this is the very small batch starter, the Moto, and now you can see that it's very bubbling, the Moto, and even this is the Moto. I can smell a very high aroma is from the Moto right now.
Yeah, it's very tiny production, isn't it? How many bottles are you? How many bottles of Naginata are you producing from this small batch?
Mostly, we got let's say 600 bottle per batch, and now you can see this is the regular fermentation tank, That's a 4,000 gallons. But we actually use the very limited small batch of the Naginata. Use this. That's only 200 gallons tank.
When do you expect to release the third batch that you just showed us?
So now, as you saw the motto, so we gotta try to build the main batch for whole this week, and then let's say little under the 40 days to fermentation, and then squeeze the press the sake. And I'm assuming to the release to the market, let's say pretty much end of March to early April, I think.
Sounds great. So thank you, Takumi-san, from broadcasting from brewery. This was very fun. Marcus,
Hey.
thank you for having SakeOne, and
Thank you
thank you for this
much.
opportunity.
Thank you always.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
We
And-
look forward to having Naginata with you all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, next up, we have Sam with Takara Brewery out of Berkeley, which is the main brand is Shochigubai. There's Sam. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Marcus. Good to see you. Good to see you.
You too. Take it away, please.
Okay, give me. Oops, here we go. All right, can everyone see that? Okay, so I'm with Takara Sake. We're based in Berkeley, California. So where we're brewing sake also in the United States, like SakeOne. We also make mirin, plum wine, and then we import a number of shochu and sakes from our breweries in Japan. So Takara, we're a member, Takara Sake USA is a member of the Takara group. So we're one of the big kind of leading alcohol companies in Japan. And then we also have a biotech that kind of offshoot that kind of came from our study of enzymes from sake brewing and everything else. And so that now that's kind of, you know, more traditional biotech company. But our main focus, of course, here is sake. And Shochigubai is our main brand for both domestic and imported sake. So the 3 breweries that we are selling sake from in the United States that are available is, of course, Takara Sake USA in Berkeley, California, our headquarters, and we have our Shochigubai and brewery in Kyoto. But right now in the United States, we're only really selling our cup sake. And then we have our Shirakabe brewery in Kobe, Japan, in Nara, where we focus on more artisanal and craft sakes. So Takara itself, we started brewing sake in 1842, but it was just a short amount of time later that shochu, mirin, and also shirosake we started making. And mirin quickly became our product that we became known for. And our president was known as the king of Kansai mirin by the turn of the century. And so that's why I want to talk about Takara mirin right now. Today we're making the mirin that we sell in the United States at our brewery in Berkeley, California. So it comes in 18 liter and 700 ml size. But mirin, it's a really essential part of Japanese cooking and can be applied to all kinds of cooking. So I really encourage people to, if you haven't tried cooking with mirin yet, to explore with that, seek out some recipes, or just try it. It really has a big effect on enhancing flavors and umami, improving, you know, kind of penetration of flavors, adds sweetness, improves your texture, gives a great appearance and glaze. And also, especially with fishes and stuff, helps with that unwanted smell. And our Takara mirin is, I think it's one of the highest quality ones available in the United States. Of course, I'm biased, but it really is brewed to contain those high levels of amino acids and peptides that are going to be essential to your Japanese cooking and any other cooking. So going back to kind of the history of Takara, our Takara name kind of got incorporated in 1925, and in 1933, the Shochigubai brand was introduced. So Shochigubai, it just means pine, bamboo, plum, which is very kind of common motif in Japanese culture. And we kind of rose in popularity in the 1900s and became known as a sake for special occasions. 1954 is when we first started exporting Shochigubai to the United States. And so it was about 30 years later when we were founded in Berkeley, California. So our brewery itself was actually existed as a sake brewery before for about 5 years from a gentleman, Numano-san, who started brewing sake in the United States. And then we kind of invested in him, and then eventually Takara opened up the Shochigabai, Takara Sake USA. And one of the many reasons for that is just it's located in a perfect area in the United States for making sake, having access to a Japanese hybrid variety, Calrose, and then combining that with excellent water source that we have in the Bay Area and the cool climate. And I think there's been a long history of brewing in the United States that actually goes back over 100 years. And based on some of the research I've seen, the first sake brewery ever in the United States was actually in Berkeley, just walking distance from where we are now. That began in 1901. That only lasted for about 10 years or so. But, sake brewing in the United States has kind of a long history, and we're seeing over the last 30 years and now over the last 5 to 10 years that it's really, really starting to pick up. So I think it's just cool to be a part of that history. And we are, as a company, I think really focused on making high quality sakes. And we spent a lot of time kind of researching how to brew sake here in the United States. And in 1983, Shochikubai Junmai was first released. That's the original bottle and packaging there. You can see up on the left is Mr. Young. He still works at the brewery. I think this photo is actually from a couple of years after we opened, but he's still there. And then a few of our other brewers that came from Japan. And so all the brewers that we have making sake here in the United States have trained in Japan or have worked here for a really, really long time. So they're very qualified, excellent brewers. And so this is what our Shochigabai Classic looks like today. And I think, it's an exceptional quality sake with just a very nice round savory complexity. And it really works as a beautiful junmai to serve warm. I just want to mention about this. We're just with Young's in Oregon too. So these pricing right here is only for Oregon. And then in 1984, just about 1 year later is when we first started making our Shochikubai Nagori, which is now one of the most popular Nagori sakes in the USA. And I think this was a really important sake for us, but also really interesting at the time. Nagoris were such a small category, even in Japan. And it was really because of that taste profile and interest in the United States that Nagori started to take off. And this was the first Nagori sake made in the United States. And this has kind of been a cornerstone of our American brewing for, since 1984. And so it's we've seen how the sake market in the United States has developed and also influenced Japan, where we see today a lot more sake breweries in Japan starting to make Nagori and import them into the US because there is that market there. So I think this product has really helped reinvigorate the Nagori style in the US, and that's had an influence in a broader way as well. So it's big, it's bold, and sweet and fruity, but it's got a really nice clean finish and great texture. So by 1990, we'd become the largest sake producer in the United States. And so we just kind of continue expanding our portfolio. In 92, we made the first US made ginjo using rice polished 50%. So this is our Shochikubai premium ginjo, very delicately fruity and dry sake. And today we have a very big portfolio. Also, our Hane sakes are very popular. So available in Oregon in apple, lychee, and white peach, as well as our flavored Nagoris. We also have, kind of focusing a little bit more on smaller batches, premium quality sakes, our Junmai Ginjo and our Ginjo Nagori, which is a very you get that nice Ginjo aroma and compared with the Nagori silkiness. And I think that's one of my favorites we make here. And then of course, our Junmai Dai Ginjo making here in the United States. So just constantly trying to, use our experience and of brewing with Calrose in the United States to elevate the quality of the sakes. And that's kind of been one of our focuses for over 35 years now. So next I want to talk about real quickly just our Shirokabegura brewery in Nara ward of Kobe, Japan. So this brewery existed before, but in 1995 it was destroyed by an earthquake, and it was at that time that Takara wanted to rebuild it, but focus on just making more artisanal style sakes, small batch or, handcrafted, unique styles. So we have a couple of sakes right here that we are selling from Shirakabe-gura, and that is our Junmai Dai Ginjo, which this one is just a very delicately balanced, but you get a lot of that tropical fruity flavor, but a good kick of umami. And then of course our Kimoto Junmai, which again is using that labor intensive method for yeast starter. And this one you get that umami and sweetness, but that rich Junmai character. And that's one of my favorites as well. And I can't end a presentation without talking about Mio's sparkling sake. This is our most popular product in Japan by far. It's really kind of just taken off. And for us, it was released in 2011. It took over 7 years of research and development to kind of figure out how we were going to crack the sparkling sake. And, we're doing carbonation injected, but focusing on giving that nice, clean finish and the sweetness all the way through. So it's got a very gentle, elegant fizz. All the sweetness is coming from the rice itself, which I think is always very surprising when you get that just huge hits of apple and pear. So it's the #1 sparkling sake in the world. And it's kind of one of our probably most well-known product in Japan. So I think, that's everything I've got.
Right.
Thank you so much for Marcus. And
greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. And awesome. So if you're interested in these things, please follow up with your sales rep. All right, next up, we are going back to Jennifer Ross and Joto Sake. So Jennifer, take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. Let's go to the final 2 sake that we're going to talk about for Joto today. The next sake that we're going to talk about, brand new sake, brand new brewery, very exciting. We can go to, thank you, Jen. So we're going to go to Ishikawa Prefecture, located the northwest Sea of Japan side of the mainland.
Sorry, I used to live there, so.
Of course, yes, no, very near and dear to Marcus's heart. I mean, I'm nervous to present this sake instead of Marcus, because not only has he lived there, he got to visit the brewery last year. So please, feel free to jump in, Marcus, if you have anything to add, if I miss anything for this guy. But it really is, I mean, we're excited, it's a husband and wife team that are brewing the sake with a very small Kurabito team. They were established in 1722, and the husband is the 9th generation for his family, but brewing the sake side by side with his wife, who we met at brewing school in Tokyo. And they are both currently under the Noto Guild. And the sake that we are bringing in from them to the US, perfect, the Tokubetsu Junmai. And I'm really excited. I've always been really fond of Tokubetsu Junmai, Tokubetsu Honjozo. I just think you get a very interesting sake for always a great price point. And this one is no exception. It is 55% polish. They're using 2 different sake rice to brew this sake. Yamada Nishiki for the brewing, or I'm sorry, for the koji rice, and Goihaku Mangoku for the brewing rice. And I think, again, I'm so excited for y'all to taste the sake because both rice are represented very, very well. I definitely get both rice coming through in the sake. And it's really amazing how there's a lot of banana. It's really like banana cream pie and almost like waffle ice cream cone, which makes the sake sound like it's going to be on the sweeter side, but it does have this really nice rustic quality, which I think the Goihaku Mangoku sake rice gives. A nice kind of sharpness, rustic quality that balances out those sweeter aromatics and the touch of sweetness on the palate as well. But like I said, so husband and wife brewing team, they are a pretty tiny production, to my understanding, about 7,000 9-liter cases annually. This is the very first sake that's ever been exported for them. And so they were supposed to come in 2020 when our brewers come to the US. His wife was going to come, and I don't think that she'd ever been here before. And we were just so excited to, kind of show her the US tour and, what sake is doing over here. And, we really hope that hopefully, if not this year, 2022, they're going to get to make it out here. they've received.
Hey,
Oh,
Jen, so when I
yes.
was there, I asked him, I said, how is it that you guys, you're husband and wife, you live together, you work together? I said, how does that work? And they go, oh, we make it work. So they did hint to me that in terms of the wife is actually kind of sort of the Toji, actually.
Oh,
They
cool.
really do brew side by side, hand in hand. And it's a pretty cool effort that they do.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, a beautiful story. And this sake really, the people that I've tasted it with, it's really unique, just over the years of selling sake and being able to drink many different kinds of delicious sake. I've never really tasted one like this. I keep kind of trying to place it in my mind of, something to compare it to, but it's very unique and really fun to drink without food, just as well with food. So they've received a lot of honors at local sake competitions. They, as far as I know, they're really held in high esteem. And again, just so excited for Joto to not only have a new sake, but a new producer to share with everybody, because it's been a while since we've got anything, new, and I hope you all get to taste it soon. So next, we are going to talk about Joto Umeshu. This is the second flavored sake to our portfolio, produced by the same brewery that's making Joto Yuzu for us, Izumo Fuji Brewery, located in Shimane Prefecture, which we didn't have enough time to take today, but we also are now bringing in Junmai Ginjo from Izumo Fuji. So please also, ask us about that later, because I'm just ecstatic about it. But the Joto Umeshu is getting set up in all of the markets right now. You guys should be getting it soon. And just like Joto Yuzu, I'm so blown away by the quality of how natural, and I mean, there's the yuzu and the umeshu, it just tastes like crushed fruit. I mean, they're all natural, nothing artificial. Sake, the fruit macerated into the sake tanks, and then beet sugar to balance out, the tartness. And this is about 11. Oh, we can go to the next slide, Jen. Thank you. Let's see. So about 11 to 12% ABV, a little bit higher than the yuzu. And they're using ume plums from Shimane farmers. And the plum is really balanced out by citrus. It just has such a beautiful acidity and a little bit of an almond note to it. So delicious on its own. I mean, it's going to be stellar in cocktails, but I mean, really one of the most pleasant ume products I've gotten to drink by itself. Izumo Fuji or Fuji Brewery, one of our smallest breweries. I mean, they also have, less than 10 Kurabito working in the brewery, no modern machinery in the brewery. Their rice steamer is in the ground. They fune press all their juice. They hand label their bottles. So it's a really beautiful handcrafted, handmade operation there. But
Jen,
yes.
I did notice a question just came up that I want to clarify. Somebody was asking about what's the difference between this product and plum wine. Plum wine is different because the base is not sake. This base is sake, and so therefore it contains no sulfites, where plum wine does contain sulfites. It's a big difference. So this is not plum's wine, rather this is sake.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, different products, both delicious, but definitely good to differentiate between the two. Great. Well, thank you all so much again. I hope to see you all in person soon, and I hope everybody's taking care and healthy and being safe.
All right, thanks, Jen. Really appreciate it. And
Thanks, guys.
you guys haven't seen some of these new items that are being presented today, you need to follow up with your sales rep about them, because they're pretty amazing. So next up, we have Ozeki. And from Ozeki today, we have Funato-san, who is the national sales manager, and Azusa-san, who I embarrassed earlier. And she will be presenting Ozeki products today. So take it away, Azusa-san and Funato-san.
Hi, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Azusa. Thank you, Marcus, for that introduction. The WSET class was really difficult but fun experience for me. And actually, let me pull up my slide right now. shoot. Sorry. You see, sorry. Okay, are you guys able to see that?
Yes, we are.
Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm actually, well, I will be presenting today, but our Vice President, Tetsuya Funato, is also on the call as well. And I will briefly be talking about our breweries, our brand name origin, and also some new releases that we are very excited to share with you today. We have two breweries. Our first brewery was established in 1711 in Hyogo, Japan, and that's over 300 years ago. And now 300 years is a very long time. There's not that many companies that have been around for that long. And to put it into perspective for you, Independence Day in the United States was in 1776, and that's 65 years after Ozeki, Japan was established. So there's a lot of history within our brewery. And our second brewery was established in 1979, about 42 years ago in Hollister, California. And we are very proud to say that we are the very first and oldest sake brewery in the US. And our Ozeki brand name origin. So Ozeki's brand name actually comes from sumo wrestling. And sumo wrestling is a very popular national sport in Japan, and it's regarded very highly. And it takes a lot of hard work and skill to become a top-ranking sumo wrestler. And the sumo wrestlers are very highly respected. And now the number one top sumo rank, the sumo wrestler is given the title Yokozuna. And the number two, second rank, is given the title Ozeki. And so even though Ozeki isn't the most prestigious title, we pride ourselves as Ozeki because we're always striving to be better. And as Yokozuna, you're already at the top and there isn't anywhere else to go. But as Ozeki, we know that there's always room to grow and room to always try to find ourselves, to improve ourselves and to improve our sake and to improve our company. And so next, we have our new releases that are coming out this year. And first up, we have a new mixed berry sparkling sake. So, hello, okay. So we already have 3 flavors. Pictured on the right is the
国内で問屋からの請求書が来てないと、何年分も来てないと、そう考えていただくとよくわかると思います。
Hello, sorry. Should I continue? Hello?
Funato-san, okay, now you.
Okay, sorry. So sorry about that. So pictured on the right, we already have the original, the yuzu and the peach sparkling sakes. But we've had many requests for the mixed berry flavor. And so we're happy to release this item, and this will be available to order in April. And these are very light and refreshing sake that is easy to drink and popular, especially in the summer. And some of you may be familiar with this other sake. It is from actually another company called the Banzai Bunny Sparkling Sake. And they have been planning to shut down this company for some years now, and unfortunately, they are now out of business. However, if you had carried these items before and you're looking for something similar, our Hanawaka series will be a really good replacement. And we also happen to have the same flavors as well as the Bunny Sparkling. And so the right 3 flavors are already available, and the new mixed berry will be available in April. The next, we have another new release. It is the Nigori Pineapple Sake. And this is a really sweet, creamy textured sake with a light, refreshing pineapple flavor. We searched really long and hard all over the world for the best pineapples, and we found that the best ones come from Costa Rica. So the nigori pineapple is made from real Costa Rican pineapples. And pictured on the right is our nigori strawberry sake that was released last year. And the strawberry was a really big hit, extremely popular. And so we decided to expand our nigori line with this new pineapple flavor. And it's very refreshing, very easy to drink, and we think it will be just as popular. And also the nigori pineapple will be available in April, so please look out for it. And this next one isn't really a new release, but it is a design change. And a design change for our Ozeki Sake Dry 180 milliliter bottle. And the right is our current and old design, and the left will be our new design. And so basically the new one will have a metallic silver wraparound label. And this will automatically roll out starting in March of this year. And this item was actually one of our very best sellers last year in 2020, and it's perfect for takeout. It's small, single serve, and can be served cold or hot by microwaving it. And you just have to remove the cup and microwave it beforehand. So if you're looking for a good item for takeout or for outdoor dining, this is something that we highly recommend. And I have actually one more new release, but before I get into that, I just want to give you a really quick background on our iconic one cup sake. So in 1964, we launched the very first cup sake in the world. And I know we see a lot of cup sake now, but we pioneered the very first cup sake, and it really revolutionized how people drink cup sake. Pictured on the left is our original design in 1964, and pictured on the right is our current design, the one I have right here. And it is a 6-ounce single serve sake that you can drink directly from the cup. And you just have to, remove this cap, and remove this, and then drink it. And then it's resealable. And there's no need to dirty any new dishes. It's and also you can microwave this too as well for 30 seconds to get hot sake if you prefer hot. And this is a very convenient way to drink sake. And so naturally it has been selling very well last year as well as a takeout and outdoor dining item during the pandemic. And currently we sold over 4 billion cup sakes worldwide. And another interesting fact is in 1966, we launched our first one cup vending machine. And this was the first vending machine in the world to offer alcoholic beverages. And I know we don't have this in the US, but it's
We need it in the US, Asuzu-san. We need this in the US.
I know, you know what? I think that legally it's a little bit different here, but it's really a fun item. I was in a hotel in Japan last year, and they actually had this there. And it was really great to be able to walk down the hall like at any time during the night or like day, and just get this from a vending machine. So it was really fun actually, and I really like this. But hopefully, I wish we could get it here too. But in any case, with that pioneering spirit, we are excited to release the new One Cup, One Love Rainbow Sake. So this will be the very first rainbow sake in the world, meaning that there's no other sake brewery that has created like a rainbow item before. And we as a company have been wanting to make something like this for a while now. And we're very proud to create something to celebrate and promote diversity. And this is a limited release. The standard blue label on the right, this one actually will automatically change to temporarily change to this rainbow one in the spring. And this is actually expected to roll out automatically in spring, but due to really popular demand, we have decided to release this a little bit earlier. And so in some markets, it has actually just started to release starting today. But I think it should be available in next few weeks or so with RNDC. So please look out for it. And part of the initial proceeds have already been donated to the Human Rights Campaign. And we as a company plan to do more in the future as well with this. And this item should be, so this item should be available in spring, so please look out for it. And okay, so when it comes to 1 cup sake, make sure to go big or go home like Marcus. And thank you so much. Thanks, Marcus, for this picture. And thank you for
that picture. Jeez. Thanks,
Thank
Minato-san. Appreciate that. All right. Thank you both very much. I appreciate that. And thank you for participating today.
Thank you so
much.
Thank you, Aziza-san.
Please enjoy our fun stuff coming spring.
Will do. All right. We have one more presentation to go today. And I'm going to introduce Mr. John Gauntner. John and I have known each other for about 20 years, thereabouts. And John, I think many of you know John. If you don't, he is absolutely one of the reasons that sake has exploded across the world today. He is an instructor, educator, inspirational person. I've learned so much from John, and I am really, really honored to call him my friend. So John.
Likewise.
You're going to teach us some cool stuff today, man, right?
Yeah, in the 20 minutes I have, I'm going to do my best. Absolutely.
All right. All right. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I hope everybody's well in spite of everything that's happening all around us. Thanks to RNDC and Vine Connections for the chance to talk tonight and putting all this together. Because we only have a short time, I'm going to kind of skip any further small talk and jump right into the topic, which is super regional rice strains. By the way, before going too further, there's no such real classification. In other words, there's no official definition of this, just no proper classification. It was just a term we used to put together a bunch of yeast strains that we think are interesting and worth discussing. So with that having been said, I want to share my screen and move from there. It looks like I've actually succeeded in doing that. Good. All right. So jumping right into it, if I may, I understand, I believe there's 150 to 180 people here in attendance tonight. And I do understand that everybody's pretty much on the sake bandwagon. But just in case there's a couple people that just joined the sake industry yesterday, or people have forgotten what they studied in the past, I just want to cover a couple of things about sake rice. And again, tonight we're talking about super regional rice strains. What I like to call the usual suspects, beyond the usual suspects, the most commonly encountered rice varieties. So to start with, what sake rice is and how it's different from table rice, I still think there's a lot of people out there, maybe not listening tonight, who still think that you need to use sake rice to make sake. And the truth of the matter is that most sake is actually not made with sake rice, but rather with table rice. Furthermore, if you look at even premium sake, again, this is another misunderstanding I find from time to time. Many people think that you need to use proper sake rice, at least to make premium sake. In other words, the 4 Ginjo types, the Tokubetsu twins, Junmai and Honjozo. And in fact, you don't need to use premium sake rice to make premium sake either. Any sake can be made with regular table rice as well as sake rice. However, almost all of the time, premium sake is going to be made with sake rice. It allows the brewing staff to express their will much more easily. Currently, and again, the word premium is a little bit precarious, but Futsushu and the special designation grades, currently it's about 60 to 65% Futsushu, and the rest is Tokutei Meishoshu, or special designation sake, premium sake. And almost all of the 35 to 40%, there's exceptions, but most of it is made using proper sake rice. So what's the big deal? How is it different from regular table rice? They're different in many ways, but the main ways are, number one, size. Sake rice is significantly bigger than table rice. Now, I mean both in terms of the stalks, which are significantly taller and therefore harder to grow and harder to control, but also the grains themselves. We may have some rice farmers in the audience. I don't know. I'm not one of them. But my point is that any of us, even if you're an amateur, even if you're not familiar with rice growing, you can clearly see that sake rice and table rice are significantly different in size. If you look at the slide, the black slide in the lower half of the slide, the black picture, the one on the right is table rice and the one on the left is sake rice. I'm sure they've selected a couple of grains that really exacerbated the size difference, but you can see it's clearly that the sake rice is significantly larger. Next, there is more starch in sake rice than there is in regular table rice. Now, starch is good because that gets converted into sugar and that gives us carbon dioxide and alcohol. Now, we like starch, and sake rice actually has more starch in it than regular table rice. Furthermore, sake rice tends to have less fat and protein in it than regular table rice. Now, the fat and protein makes table rice taste good. It makes it more enjoyable to eat. It makes it taste better. However, in sake brewing, after a certain point, fat and protein lead to off flavors, to rough flavors. So what we want in sake rice is more starch and less fat and protein. And that's what sake rice gives us as compared to table rice. Furthermore, the starch that we want so badly is conveniently physically located in the center of the grain in sake rice. In table rice, not so much. The fats, proteins, and starches are kind of all mixed up. If you look at the higher picture here, the brown one, and again, they enhance this quite a bit to show the point. The one on the left is table rice, and you can see you can't really see this white opaque center, whereas if you look on the one on the right, which is sake rice, you can see this big white opaque center where the starches are concentrated. It's actually not quite as visible as that. The one in the lower picture might give you a better indication of how you can see a physical starch packet in the center of the grains. And again, what's good about this is it allows us to mill away more and more of the outside of the grain, and the starch remains intact. We just get rid of the things we don't want, which are fat and protein. So these are some of the things that make sake rice unique. It's also got a much higher price tag. Sake rice is much more expensive than table rice. Now, obviously, both table rice and sake rice have a wide range of prices. But typically, sake rice can be 2 to 3 times more expensive than regular table rice. And that's a big difference as well. A couple more things about sake rice. Currently, there's about 100 of them that are on the list of official sake rices. And what I mean by that is that in order for a sake rice to be used in a sake and have that sake allowed to put one of the premium grades on the label, be it one of the ginjos or tokubetsu twins or honjos or junmai, the rice that's gone into that sake must have passed inspection. And currently, there's about 100 sake rice on the list of sake rice that the government will inspect. And that's what I mean by about 100 of them. And every year, a few of them drop off because people stop growing them, and the government doesn't have the need to maintain the inspectors anymore for those. And we get new ones coming on every year. But basically, it hovers around 100 to 110 every year of official sake rice varieties. Sake rice is a hassle to grow compared to table rice. Rice farmers would much rather grow the shorter, easier to sell table rice. Sake rice calls for much more attention because the stalks grow to be much taller. Again, we're talking 5 or 6 feet tall. They can topple over much more easily. They get top heavy with all the seeds in the fall, and they tend to topple over. And once that happens, you need to harvest them immediately, whether or not they were at the peak moment ready for harvest. Also, a lot of really good sake rice grows in Western Japan, and that's where the typhoons hit every fall. So right when your sake rice is ready to harvest, a typhoon can come in and lay it low. So there's a lot of risk on top of the hassle to grow sake rice. And as I alluded to earlier, any rice that's used in making sake needs to pass inspection if you want to use it in a sake on which you're going to list the name of the grade on the bottle. In other words, if you're going to call it ginjo or daiginjo, you don't have to use sake rice, but whatever rice you use must pass at least one of the grades of inspection. So if we look at the usual suspects, the most commonly encountered sake rice varieties out there, to me, I think with wine too, if you knew the top 10 grapes, you're probably going to know the grapes that were used to make 80% of the wine you're going to drink. For a normal person on a normal day. Well, you know what I mean. But if you look at sake here, it's about the same thing. About the top 10 sake rices will probably cover about 80% of all the premium sake that you'll encounter as you go drinking through that. But the top 3, really the usual suspects, Yamada Nishiki, Gohyakumangoku, and Miyama Nishiki, they tend to take up a large chunk of all the sake rice that's used in making premium sake these days. So those top three are really very, very commonly encountered. And those are the three that I like to refer to as the usual suspects. And again, what do I mean by the usual suspects? Well, they might also be known as or described by what we're talking about today. I'm sorry, what I meant by the other guys. The usual suspects are Yamada, Miyama, and Gohyaku Mangoku. But the other guys, in other words, the ones that aren't the usual suspects. What do I mean by that? One is super regional rice types, which grow in very, very small parts of Japan, only in this region, for example, or only in the northern part of this particular prefecture. And there's more of those than you might imagine. But super regional rice types, which we're talking about today. Next is less commonly encountered sake rice. For example, it might just be more of a hassle to grow, or it only grow, or more expensive to sell, or it might have a particular characteristic where the seeds fall off the stalks too easily. And so that people don't grow them as often as they do some of the usual suspects. Another one might be newcomers. I mean, every year, many prefectures in Japan and many places in Japan every year are coming out with new sake rices. And everybody's trying to get a really, really good sake rice that they can grow at home. It's just economically better. You help sustain the local agricultural economy. So people are developing new rices all the time. And when they come along, they don't exactly get adopted by everybody very quickly. It'll take about 5 to 10 years. And if the industry and the consumers see that this rice is good, then it will start to grow. So the other guys could also refer to newcomers. We can see newcomers in place of the big three usual suspects. Another one would be underdogs. And again, just rice that are very good, just not commonly used because they don't have brand recognition, or maybe they're not quite as good as the three most commonly used varieties. Then there's outside the boxers. And what I mean by this is I think there are sake producers that will use a rice not normally used for making sake for the particular point of being different and trying to do something outside of the box and coming up with something unique. That could be red rice. It could be rice that dissolves very, very easily. It could be a rice that doesn't dissolve very well at all. But those that are actually thinking out of the box and deliberately using a variety of rice that you might not normally use is other guy. And lastly, the under the radar types, just people there's a lot of sake rices out there that you never hear about because they're not that outstanding, but they make great, for example, rice that you steam and add directly to the mash as opposed to growing koji mold on it or something like that. So there are a lot of under the radar rice types that are out there as well. However, what we're talking about tonight are the super regional sake rice varieties. And again, we'll talk about 2 of them tonight, but there's a handful of them that I wanted to throw at you really quick before we talk about the 2 that I'm going to bring up. One is Dewa Sansan, which is from Yamagata Prefecture. It's probably been around about 20 years. And again, it's done very well. It's grown to be in the top 10 of all sake rice produced. Kurano Hana in Miyagi is another one we see a lot of. Hida Homare is not a large growth, very, very super regional as well. And that's from Gifu. Saga no Hana from Saga is growing, and I'm really not sure how fast it's catching on. Sankei Nishiki, there's a lot of people that have a lot of high expectations for this particular rice, and that's in Nagano Prefecture. Ginpu in Hokkaido, which was developed about 20 years ago as well, and that's worked its way into the top 10 as well. So that one has done very well. Ad infinitum, ad nauseum. I mean, there's really, really many of these rices that are flying under the radar or super regional sake rice varieties. I got to admit, I just whipped these 7 out. And my point is that there's many more, and some that you know of may be more significant or more frequently encountered than this list here. They're just examples that I thought of various super regional sake rice varieties. The 2 that I want to talk about today one is a rice called Kumamoto Shinniki, and that's brewed by Chiyono Sono Shuzo, who makes Chiyono Sono sake, and that is Kumamoto Prefecture. The other one is Hattanso rice, and that's brewed by Imada Shuzo, who makes Fukucho sake, and that is in Hiroshima Prefecture. So let's first look at Kumamoto Shinniki. Originally, Shinniki was a rice from Hyogo Prefecture. You may remember that there's a lot of great sake rice from Hyogo Prefecture, and the first on the list of all sake rice that's used, Yamada Nishiki, was created in and still is the best place for growing it is Hyogo Prefecture. Maybe Shinniki, I don't know, but maybe Shinniki fell and dwindled in the shadow of Yamada Nishiki. I just don't know, but originally it was grown in Hyogo, and it is still grown there to a certain degree, but it all but disappeared from there. However, in the meantime, the rice had made its way down to Kyushu, which is the southernmost of Japan's 4 major islands. And when I say made its way down, somebody brought it down, obviously, but they started to grow it down there, and they found out that it worked pretty well as a sake rice. So it started to grow more in Kyushu and in Kumamoto Prefecture, which is on Kyushu, than it was originally in Hyogo, although that may have changed. In any event, it was originally an heirloom rice from Hyogo. And when they got it down to Kumamoto, they said, well, let's rename it because it's not what it was. And that's when the name Kumamoto Shinniki was assigned to it. So, as I mentioned, it's also grown in Kyushu, Kumamoto, wherein sits the Chiyono-sono. Interestingly, initially, they had trouble getting it inspected. And remember, if you don't get the rice inspected, you can't use that rice to make tokutei meishoshu, to make premium sake. You can't put the grade of premium sake on the label unless your rice has at least passed inspection. It's a good rule, but it gets in the way sometimes. And initially, they wanted to use it as a sake rice down in Kumamoto, but they couldn't because they couldn't get it inspected. And the reason they couldn't get it inspected is because the inspectors were up in Tokyo and they didn't want to trudge all the way down to Kyushu, all the way down to Kumamoto Prefecture to just inspect rice that not that many people were using. However, Chiyono-sono Brewery saved it. In other words, they badgered the Ministry of Agriculture in Tokyo to get someone down to inspect the rice. And that made it a proper sake rice. And they were able to go from there and brew premium sake using it. One other interesting tidbit is that there are a handful of products made using the rice Kumamoto Shinniki. However, there's only one product that's made with 100% Kumamoto Shinniki, and that's the one that's available in the United States through Vine Connections. So in other words, the others that use Kumamoto Shinniki might use another rice for the koji, for example, or maybe use this as the koji and another rice for the rice that doesn't have koji mold grown upon it. But the only one that is 100% Kumamoto Shinniki is the one that's available in the US. So you have that going for you in the US. To talk about the flavors of the rice, again, while it depends hugely on how it's made, in other words, 50 brewers can take the same rice and make 50 completely different sake based on the way they make the koji, the yeast they use, the temperature of fermentation, how they prepare the yeast starter. So it depends hugely on how the sake is made. To me, Kumamoto Shinniki rice tends to lead to a slightly gamey, slightly wild, slightly earthy flavor, yet at the same time, somehow maintaining some refinement and delicate aspects to the sake. It's really got a juxtaposition of wildness and refinement. And I think that's a really, really interesting aspect of this sake. But again, remember, rice flavors will vary hugely based on countless things like koji production and others, but that's the general impression that I have of it. Currently, Mr. Honda is the president of Chiyono-sono Brewery, and he's alive and well and living in Kumamoto. However, he has designated his first daughter, Yuri, to be the next owner inherit. In other words, she will be taking over the brewery when her father decides to step down and go into retirement. But he looks very, very energetic, and I don't see that happening anytime in the immediate future. However, she's a great example of a woman in the modern sake industry working diligently to preserve the legacy of the ancestors of this historically very significant brewery. And while that sounds like a straight marketing line, that's probably because it is a straight marketing line. However, what's interesting about this is that Chiyono-sono was one of two breweries that revived Junmaishu in 1964. And that's historically very, very significant. So from 1941 to 1964, all sake was made with a little bit of distilled alcohol added to it, or in some cases a lot. But either way, this brewery is one of two that brought back Junmaishu. In other words, they revived the style. And at the time, the term Junmaishu didn't even exist. There was no sake that fit into that framework. But this brewery has a long history, and one of their great accomplishments is to have revived Junmaishu back in 1964. Next, I'd like to talk about Hatanso rice. And this is a picture of a rice growing testing facility. I'm sure there's got to be a better way to say that, but they develop new rice varieties here. So this is a government run rice research organization. And I've mentioned before that sake rice can be really tall, and it is. And the one on the far left that's much taller than all of the others is Hatanso rice. It's very difficult to grow because of that height. You can't use normal combines to harvest it, and that's probably why they gave up on it so many, many years ago. It's from Hiroshima Prefecture. We've got a picture of that here. The red letters at the bottom say Imada Shuzo, and that's where Imada Brewery is. Another brewery is a Fukucho. And it's just a short walk from the ocean, very, very close to the ocean. In the northern part of the prefecture, the other red characters, that is where Akitakada city is where it is. And that's where the Hatanso was grown. So it's only several dozen kilometers from where the brewery is. Currently, it was revived from just a few seeds, about 50 seeds from a seed bank by Miho Imada, who's the president and Toji of Imada Shuzo. She went to the seed bank, and you can request seeds to grow them if you do the proper paperwork. Now, so Japan has these seed banks, and I'm willing to bet we have them here in the US too, but any rice variety that's ever been grown, and I believe any edible fruit or vegetable too, they keep the seeds for that. And for whatever reason, if people stopped growing them, maybe yields were low, or it was just a hassle, or the right environment didn't exist, they still keep the seeds usable by growing it every year or two. So you can go get seeds for various things from one of these seed banks. And she heard a lot about the historical rice hatanso, and she went and she procured 50 of them and revived the rice. So it's an heirloom rice. In other words, it's a pure strain. It doesn't have any known parents. It wasn't crossbred, but it's in the roots of a rice called Hattan Nishiki and a rice called Hattan. And these are two really very well-known Hiroshima rice varieties. So this heirloom rice, Hattanso, has in its roots, is in the roots of Hattan Nishiki and Hattan, even though it itself is not very commonly used and went close to extinction for decades and decades. And as I mentioned, it's massively difficult to grow. I've heard from Imada-san and from someone else that works for her that basically the farmers that grow it are always complaining and grumbling. And you go and say, "Hi, nice day, isn't it?" And they say, "That Hatanso is really difficult to grow." On the website, I believe there's only 3 farmers that are growing it right now. But on the Fukucho website, they had pictures of 2 of the farmers. I'm pretty sure it's the guy on the left that's doing all the complaining. He just doesn't look like a happy camper at all. But that's purely my surmisal. I don't know anything more about that, to be honest with you. If we look at the sake itself, so she makes about half a dozen products with Hatanso. And some are made with more or less milling. She's got Daiginjo, she's got Junmaishu, but each one of them is a little bit different. However, to describe them, it's important to say that they're influenced more by Ms. Imada's brewing style than the nature of Hatanso. And the reason I say that is, if we talk about Yamada Nishiki, tends to lead to full, billowing, slightly sweet, lots of umami flavors. There's about 1,200 breweries in Japan, between 11 and 1,200, and about 800 of them use Yamada Nishiki. So there's tons of examples that we have about how Yamada Nishiki tastes to get a generalization. For Hatanso, we've got one brewer, one person, one woman is making half a dozen products with the rice. It's not exactly a huge sample base, is it? So in other words, to talk about what Hatanso tastes like is really to talk about the brewing style that Imada-san uses in making the half dozen or so products that she has. It's not enough samples to identify any tendencies in the rice. A little bit more about Ms. Imada herself. She is both the president and the master brewer and the toji of Imada Shuzo. That's very rare to have someone who is both. Usually you leave all the brewing to the toji and the president runs the business, and vice versa. They usually don't step on each other's feet. There are other examples. She's not the only one to do this, but it's basically superhuman. You got to run the brewing of dozens and dozens of tanks every year. And on top of that, you got to run the business aspects of it. Also, neither of these positions have traditionally been held by women very often. Even today, very rarely is the president a woman. They're out there. And one of our presenters today actually has a woman that's a president. And very rarely is the toji a woman either. But she's kind of got both of those boxes checked off there. Because of that, she was actually selected as one member of this year of 2020's BBC list of 100 influential women, which is just outstanding. It's wonderful. I'm very, very happy for her. If you're at least been interested in that, if you were to look up those words on the you find out a lot written about it. There's a lot in the internet right now, so you can read plenty about it if you were at all interested. The last thing I want to say about her is she's just technically outstanding. She's a very, very, very skilled brewer and very precise, and she's very creative. But what's really cool is she has a wide range of products, but she's narrowed them down to just one range of products that are really, really expressive of her style of sake. So she's got a unique and expressive sake, but there's a thread of consistency that runs through everything she does that's extremely, extremely impressive. So do bear that in mind. So to wrap all of this up, we talked about beyond the usual suspects today, super regional sake rice types, in particular, Chiyonosono's Kumamoto Shinmiki and Fukucho's Hatanso. And they convey to me regional character in the sake. Even if that regional character cannot be directly attributed to the rice, it is regional character in the sense that they're actually the spirit of regional characters alive in it. Also, the commitment to the history, the legacy, and the tradition of the brewery by the people actually brewing the sake is significant too. And then I think using these super local regional rices expresses diversity in just about everything, again, on behalf of the industry. So the brewers that do this kind of show the world that, look, there's much more to the sake world than the top 3, 4, or 5 sake rices of which you're aware. And I think that's a wonderful thing for them to be doing for the industry. So super regional rice strains, be sure to check out the various rice types beyond the usual suspects. All of them are as many as you can get your hands on over time. And be sure to start with Chiyono Sacred Power, made with Kumamoto Shinniki, and Fukucho Forgotten Fortune, made with Hattanso. Kampai.
Thank you very much, John. That was amazing. We really greatly appreciate it. It's very good to see you, my friend.
Likewise, very much likewise.
Are you in the US or Japan right now?
I am in the US right now.
All right.
We have to see
Sorry
how
about
things
your Cleveland
unfold.
Browns. They did get far, but you know.
Pardon me, please?
I said, sorry about your Cleveland Browns.
Oh, they got farther than gotten in 20 years, so I'm happy.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So we're done with the sake show today. I just wanted to thank all of you who have come and participated today. I think it went extremely well. Very pleased, and I cannot thank Jen enough. Jen, is there any way you can show yourself just so we can visually say hello to you and thank you? Please.
Yeah.
There she is. This is amazing Jen from Vine Connections who produced this whole thing today. She made sure it was smooth. The reason it went so well today is because of this lady right here. So thank you, Jen. Thank you.
Happy to help. Thank you everyone for coming.
This whole session has been recorded today, and I will learn from Jen later about how everyone can access it. And again, follow up with your sales rep, and thank you again so much. I hope next year, even though this was really fun, I do hope next year we can do a live sake show, but who knows, maybe we'll do a virtual to get everybody together from regions and then do something live in Portland as well. So thank you all. Have a good evening. Drink some sake. Kampai.